Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to our Investor Next Door Club Masterclass for tonight. We're going to talk about the 5 biggest money mistakes people make. And I think this masterclass is very foundational to what we teach in our community, our financial community, Investor Next Door Club, because money is not about making more. It's not about the actual money. It literally is a mindset shift that has to happen. And we're going to talk about those mistakes, and you're going to see how you can actually make that shift today, not waiting next week, next month, next year. You actually can make that shift today. So I'm going to jump right in. If you're somebody that you want to get on right now, it's not too late to go ahead and send them a quick text message. We're going to be on for about 30 minutes. But I am telling you right now, everyone needs to know this information, especially young people who are starting out, so they can avoid some of these mistakes that you and I in our latter years have already ingrained in ourselves, and we're going to have to undo some of these habits that we've done. So I'm really excited to share with you all about this tonight. So we're going to really talk about these money mistakes and how to avoid them, and the 5 habits that really have prevented people from having incredible success. So here's the big idea that I really want you to walk away from tonight. It's not about income, okay? It's not about how much money you make. It really is about the decisions that you repeat over time. It's the compounding effect. You see, most people overestimate what they can do in a day. Case in point, you probably had a huge to-do list today, and you probably didn't get most of it done. But a lot of people underestimate what they can get done in 1 year or 5 years or 10 years. And if money really made a difference, then statistically, people who made more money would not be living paycheck to paycheck. But statistically, 70% of all people at all income levels are living paycheck to paycheck. This is why you see famous people, athletes, actors, their career slides and all of a sudden they're broke. Like, you see that all the time. It's because they're still, these habits are ingrained in them, and it doesn't matter how much money you make, you're still doing that. So one of the things I really want you to understand that a lot of people don't tell you is that money is a game. And there are rules to the game that a lot of people haven't been taught. And when you understand the rules of the game, then you can have some tools. You'll be able to actually start to compete and start to win the game. And when you're around people that understand the strategies of really winning and being a master at the game, that's when you really start to excel. So the first mistake that most people make is they allow for lifestyle creep. They don't necessarily allow for it, but they are actually they're a victim of lifestyle creep. It just kind of creeps in. It happens automatically. They don't even realize that it's coming. Most people increase their spending every single time their income increases. So maybe you're in a place where you've been in the workforce for 10, 20, 30 years, and you're making more money than you've ever made before. Yet the feeling of being stretched and being tapped out, or just being barely above water, might still be the same. Or maybe you're doing well, but you're not doing as well as you'd hope you do. You know, when people get a new raise, they start looking at bigger houses, they start looking at better cars, they start spending a little bit more on vacation. And it could be even more subtle than that. They start going to a little bit nicer restaurant, or they go to the same restaurant and they now order a dessert with dinner, or they add an appetizer, or they have 2 cocktails instead of just having water. Whatever that is, it's lifestyle creep. And as they become a victim of lifestyle creep, their investments never ever grow. Their lifestyle goes up, their spending goes up, but their investments stay exactly the same. So let me ask you something. Ask yourself this. When was the last time your investments got a raise? Okay. For a lot of you, your investments haven't gotten a raise. You're still investing the same or not investing at all, thinking that when you've got a little bit more margin, when you've got a little bit more breathing room, you can do that. So here's an action step you can take is commit to investing a portion of every future raise before you increase your spending. So it could be you're in a place where the next raise, 100% of that raise goes into investing. And that would actually save you an incredible amount of time and sorrow. Okay. So the second mistake people make is they save instead of invest. And this, I would say, is probably due to a lot of ways we've been brought up. Like, this is our upbringing. This is what people have taught us. This is what our parents have taught us. And saving will protect your money, which is a great thing to do. But investing actually grows your money. You see, money actually has one job, and it's not to pay your bills, and it's not to fund your lifestyle. Money's job is to go and make more money for you. So money that sits still, or money that grows a little bit in a savings account or a high yield savings account, it's actually losing purchasing power because inflation is going to outpace the earnings of that money. So if you look at this little graph, $10,000 saved over 30 years, you might have about $11,000 saved. But $10,000 saved over 30 years could easily be $100,000 at a conservative compounding rate of return of 8%. That is a conservative rate of return. And average S&P averages about 10%. So that's 25% more. That could be easily $125,000. So it's really important that you really focus on that. So one of the things that people don't understand about money and about math, and I know a lot of you will probably check out just from hearing this information. You're just checking out because we're going to start talking about math. I hear people say all the time, I'm not good at this stuff. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at money. Listen, you're not good at it because you haven't been taught how to play the game. So when you save and you have a savings account versus diversified savings, you don't have to get caught up in the exact returns. You need to understand that there's power in compounding your money. So when you understand that when you invest, your money compounds over time, that's where you can actually make a difference in what you're doing, is really being able to compound that. Now, the third mistake people make is carrying really expensive debt, okay? Debt is really your Achilles heel. That really can undermine what you're doing. If you're carrying an average credit card is about 20% interest rate. And I know a lot of people have really high interest rate credit cards, 29, 30, sometimes 32%, which for most of history, that would be considered usury. But for some reason, here in America, credit card companies are allowed to charge that kind of interest. Now, when you have that kind of debt, it is impossible to invest and outperform that kind of debt. And not all debt is bad debt. So some types of good debt is investment properties where you have to take out a mortgage to get an investment property. If you're in business and you take out a business loan to actually grow your business, if you've got any kind of asset that's appreciating and you've got a debt on that, as long as it's cash flowing, that's good debt. Now, bad debt is any kind of credit cards that you're carrying a balance, any kind of consumer finance loans or high interest loans. Debt should be used to buy assets, not liabilities. So when you are putting clothes or vacations on a credit card, that's a liability that you're carrying. You're paying for that vacation probably twice as much as you would normally pay it. Now, if you are in debt, one of the things that we do in our community is we have an incredible debt forgiveness program. So if you are curious about that debt forgiveness program, we have a masterclass on debt. And so you reach out to whoever invited you, or if you want to put in the chat to the hosts and panelists, debt, and then put in your email address, we will send you a link to that masterclass, because one of the things that we know is people cannot get ahead as long as they are in that kind of debt. So really, really important for you to understand that. So the fourth money mistake that people have is they never learn about money. Financial education is the one type of education that is going to pay dividends forever and ever and ever. Now, let me ask you something. How many hours did you spend in school learning about algebra? Like, how many hours was that? Almost everybody had to take some kind of algebra class, probably 1 hour a day, 5 days a week for probably 40 weeks. So 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, that's 5 hours times 40 weeks. That's 200 hours of algebra. And how much do you actually use algebra in your life? How often is that used? I can tell you, I use algebra when I help my son with his algebra homework. There's very little algebra that gets used in day-to-day life. But how many hours did someone teach you about investing? And for most people, that is virtually none. I can tell you, for me growing up, I didn't learn anything about money from my parents. My parents were immigrants and they lived paycheck to paycheck. And there were seasons where they struggled, where we lived off of welfare, where we lived in the projects that were government housing. So there was no excess money to talk about money. And even when there wasn't excess money, there are still money habits that could have been learned and could have been taught that I just wasn't taught. And my husband Richard and I, we spent the last 20 years investing in courses and education and training to learn about investing and learn about financial strategies. And the reason, and a lot of that education came at a really, really high price tag, because the more money we made, the smarter we wanted to be about money. But unfortunately, most people don't have the ability to spend $30,000 on a mastermind or $10,000 on a course. And so that's the reason why we created Investor Next Door Club. For as little as $99 a month, you can get involved in a financial community where you're learning all sorts of things about money strategies and investing and tax strategies, and the ability to save you thousands upon thousands of dollars every single year. People aren't financially struggling because they're lazy. If you're on this, if you're watching this recording, you're not struggling or you're not getting ahead like you want to because you're lazy. You're struggling or you're not moving at the pace you want to move because no one taught you. One of the things we always say is, like, money is a game. And if your parents didn't teach you the rules of the game, where do you learn that? Where do you learn that if you can't afford to be taught in some of these high ticket programs? Well, this is why we created Investor Next Door Club, so that we could teach everyday people the rules of money, the rules of the game of money, and teach them strategies on how to win it. None of this that we're teaching is new. None of this is news. This is something that the wealthy have taught their kids for generations, which is why the wealthy remain wealthy and they get wealthier. I talked to a financial planner a few months ago, and she was shocked at how very few people understand finances and financial strategies. Because she said, listen, my dad had a very successful financial services business, and my mom was a trust fund baby. So I grew up learning this stuff at my kitchen table around dinner time and lunchtime. And I watched my parents do that, and they taught me how to do that. Well, that's great for her, but for most people, most everyday people like myself, like probably you weren't taught this information, and that's why our community exists, so that you can be taught that. Financial education is the one investment that always pays dividends. So when we talk about our community, we talk about, it being an investment in what you're doing. 1 out of 3 adults only 1 in 3 adults can pass a basic financial literacy quiz. And that is very, very common. One of the great things about money being a game is, I hear a lot of people, and I shared this earlier, that say they're not good at it. But once you start learning the rules of the game, you start having fun with it. You start realizing, oh, this is a game that I can actually win. Like, how many times have you started playing a game, whether it's a video game or a board game or even a sport, where you didn't really fully understand it, or you were watching a sport on TV and you didn't really understand the rules of that sport? So watching it was just not enjoyable, wasn't fun. But then once you started learning and understanding the rules and you started understanding strategy, watching it became more fun, playing it became more fun. And then when you were around people who were good and who understood strategies and who could teach you strategies, that became even more fun. And you started looking forward to the times where you could play the game. Well, that's just like money. That's how money works. And it really is a game that you can learn and master no matter where you're starting from. Now, the fifth and probably one of the biggest things that the mistakes that people make around money is waiting for the perfect time to get started. There's no perfect time to get started. Time in the market beats timing the market. So having duration, having the length of time your money is invested, however little you have, is better than waiting until just the perfect time. If you start at 25 years old investing just minimally, you could have well over 700,000 invested just in a few decades. But if you wait 10 years, at 35, you have about $300,000, less than half, just because you did it 10 years earlier. And this is investing at a conservative rate of return of 8%. Up until you're 65 years old. And let me tell you this, if you're 18 years old and you invest $200 a month consistently over time at a conservative rate of return, by the time you retire at 65, you will have $1 million in the bank. And that is a very common statistic. It's just a statistic that most people never learn. So really important that you start as soon as you can. So a lot of people, make up all these excuses about why they can't invest. I'll invest when the rates come down, or I invest when the market crashes and it's a great time to go in, or I'll invest when I start making more money, there's more margin, or I'll invest when my kids move out and I don't have, college tuition. I'll invest when I pay off all of my debt. I'll invest when things calm down. And the reality is there's always something happening and there's always uncertainty in the marketplace. So successful investors, they build during uncertainty. They start to figure it out. They learn how to strategize and how to win the game, even in the midst of uncertainty. You see, what successful people understand is money has seasons. The market has seasons, just like we have winter, spring, fall, and summer. The market has that too. And in winter seasons and in down economies, when people are struggling, that's when people who are successful investors, they understand that that's when you make the most money. They plan for winter. They understand how winter works. They understand the rhythm of the seasons when it comes to the market, and they understand how to play that game. So remember, time in the market beats timing the market. So your best bet to really getting ahead financially is to jump in the game now, not later, not in a week, not in a month, but now. You cannot afford to wait because you've waited long enough. Now, the common thread on all of this stuff is that behavior beats income all day long. Fear, procrastination, isolation, all of that costs people money. That costs people money. The real problem is never money. It is behavior. It is the thing that we teach and train in Investor Next Door Club so that people understand what to do with their money. And when you've got the right behaviors down, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You start to make strides in being able to put your money to work for you. So most financial mistakes come down to fear and procrastination, lack of education, and isolation. I'll tell you what, 80% of why people aren't where they want to be when it comes to money is because of behavior. Knowledge is only 20% of the equation, and people don't understand that. 80% is behavior, 20% is knowledge. This is the reason why two people making exactly the same amount of money, that one can be ridiculously successful and have a lot of money in the bank. Their net worth is incredible. And the other person is still struggling, still trying to keep their head above water, still trying to get ahead. That's the reason. And this is the reason why we created Investor Next Door Club, because none of us were meant to figure this out alone. And one of the fastest ways to grow financially is to surround yourself with people who are learning and investing and making better decisions together. The most expensive financial decision you will ever make is the decision you make alone. You see, you will make expensive financial decisions that you don't even realize are expensive decisions. And that's the reason why we created Investor Next Door Club, because we know that a lot of people feel like they're in isolation. And the reason why we know that is that's what we felt. When we were starting out, we were trying to figure it out. It was literally the blind leading the blind, trying to figure out this money thing, trying to figure out getting ahead in life. And the more money we made, the more confused we were. And we started really just having to spend a lot of money understanding money. And Rich and I, we felt like it shouldn't be that way. Everyday people, the nurse, the teacher, the student, the young couple starting out, your next door neighbor, they should have the same access and the same ability, the same education that wealthy people who have had for decades and for generations. And that's the reason why we started it, is so that you could be that. And so you could have that. Now, here's a 30-day challenge, okay? And some of you are going to take it on and some of you aren't, but I hope all of you will take it on. I want you to choose one action this week that you're going to take action on, whether it's read a book or watch a video on finances, watch another masterclass, attend a class, increase your investing by 1%, have a money conversation with someone in your life. Maybe it's your spouse. Small actions compounded over time creates momentum. So whatever that small action is, keep doing that. Do it every day. Take one of these actions. Maybe you're doing one this week and you're doing it every day for the next week. And then you're doing something else and you're doing that one action every day for the next week. And you string those actions together. Now you've got a habit. It says statistically that habits are formed after 28 days of repeatedly doing the habit. So maybe instead of grabbing your phone and scrolling, you're grabbing your phone and watching a masterclass on money. You can go to our YouTube channel, lots of classes on it. We talk about the investor mindset. We talk about why real estate. We talk about compounding interest. We talk about, getting out of debt. We talk about all sorts of things around money. We talk about tax strategies. And when you can create that one small action and do it over time, you start creating momentum. You start building this habit and you start being able to really accelerate what you're doing. And I'll tell you, if you're curious about what we're doing, I want to invite you to come find out more about Investor Next Door Club. You can go onto our website, read all about us, watch some videos about how our community works. Tomorrow night, right here at inklifestyle.live on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central Time, we do a community overview where we talk about our community, about the education, what types of education we offer, the free tools that are included in your training that's going to help you track and help you get from where you are to where you want to be. We're going to talk about our access to deals where you can invest just a few $1,000s and start having fractional ownership of real estate instead of having to have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to get in the game. We also talk about how we help our people create a cash flow system and put money in their pocket so they can pay off debt, close the gap between how much money they make and how much money they need, and to make enough money to be able to start their investing journey. And it really is about community, because that really is the thing that's going to make the biggest difference. If tonight sparked a new way of thinking, that's exactly why Investor Next Door Club exists. Every week we bring together everyday people who want to learn and grow and ask questions and gain access to opportunities that they may never have ever discovered on their own. And we'd love to have you continue this journey with us. So if you're interested in that, reach out to the person who invited you onto this Zoom or had you watch this replay and ask them more about Investor Next Door Club, because everyone truly is invited. So thank you for spending some time with us. I look forward to celebrating your success with you. You guys have a great night.